This meeting is being recorded.
We're going to begin a discussion of materials from Chapter 4, which includes both alkanes and cycloalkanes. So we'll introduce what's meant by these terminologies, and we'll look at each of the sections as we learn different ways to name these compounds. So that's our main goal in this chapter, learning nomenclature. And we see here in section 4.1 that we're introduced to an alkane. So this term here, and we're going to focus on hydrocarbons, so compounds that are composed of only hydrogen and carbon. Hence the name hydrocarbons. So alkanes are the simplest type of hydrocarbons, and they contain only single bonds. So if you notice down here, the structure on the left ends in an A-N-E ending. This is an alkane. So all single bonds between the carbons and hydrogens, only carbons and hydrogens in the molecular formula here. So we would call this ethane molecule, we would identify it as an alkane. There are other hydrocarbons listed here, but we see differing molecular formulas, still two carbons, but we have less and less hydrogens. So we use this term down here to describe saturated, to describe when the maximum amount of hydrogens possible are on that compound. So this carbon over here has one carbon bond and then 3 hydrogens. So we say that it's saturated with hydrogens. As many as possible are bonded there. We can't bond any more because we would violate carbon's octet. Then we see in our ethylene, we change the ending here to ENE, and now we have this pi bond, this double bond installed, and we would call this an unsaturated compound because it doesn't have a saturation of hydrogens. There could be, that bond could be broken and we could add a couple more. So we would call anything with a double bond or even with a triple bond or an aromatic, such as this benzene ring here. These all three are considered unsaturated hydrocarbons, and we would call them different names. So we'll introduce an alkene later on, which has one pi bond, a double bond, and then we have alkynes, which are again hydrocarbons but with a triple bond. And then this category would be aromatics. So things like this benzene ring here. Let's take a look. How do we name these things? So some molecules, some compounds you'll find common names for. So these are the names that are not standardized, that are not International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry sanctioned, right? These are what some that are familiar with the compounds may call them. So formic acid, for example, given down here, this would have a different name under the IUPAC rules, but we call it formic acid because it comes from ants. The Latin word for ant is formica, listed down here, so hence the common name. Urea comes from urine, so common, denoted name based on its origin. Morphine here is named after the Greek god of dreams, Morpheus. If you take enough morphine, you will be sleeping, right? So that's where that name came from. This one here, this is a funny name, this barbituric acid. This was named after a lady named Barbara. So depending on who discovered the compounds, sometimes you have these common nomenclatures established, and sometimes they stick around for centuries. Sometimes we prefer to use the IUPAC system. So in the next video, we'll review the rules for the International Union system that is used, the strategy that we'll use to name compounds.